But we came out of 2 blue screens, and then I get the technician, and he saw it too. So I got verification. But we are here, and I'm really, really happy, especially at 4:30. You guys are still here and want to know about Project and Project Server and Project Online. Excellent. Thank you. My name is Perreaux. I'm with the company MVP Press. Also, PMO Logistics is the project management side of my one of my companies. You'll be able to find me at all the particular stuff. Just Google me. I'm there. Basically, what I want to do today is go through the latest and greatest of everything on Project Server, and Project Online. We'll do a comparison of some of the things, especially with Pro and Online. Project Server and Online. Anybody using Online yet? Anybody thinking about using it? Anybody's bosses thinking about it? Because it's cheap, kinda. So what I would like to do is go through a number of different things and start doing a demo in between. And hopefully I'll show you some additional cool stuff that'll go through. Now, a couple of things. What's new, I would say, in Project 2013 that's really big is going to be the reporting features, opening and saving at different locations, Office 365 integration, big. Project templates, and as well a new feature called Task Path. The thing that we want to get at is more in terms of for the opening and saving locations. We've got the ability to save on SkyDrive now, okay? So whether it's personal for you guys or whether or not you're dealing with SkyDrive Pro, if you're on a SharePoint Online, you're able to get that capability. You can also save directly to Project Server and SharePoint 2013. Now, a thing to note as well is you need to have the professional version in order to do any saving or any work on a SharePoint site, okay? That's the expensive one, okay? It's not the cheap one. As well as Project Online, and as well as Office 365 SharePoint. And they're all there. And it all depends on how you have your settings configured on Pro. This is just strictly Pro. We haven't done anything. We'll still set up accounts like we did before in Project Server. Anybody using 2007, 2010 server? Yeah? Pretty much it's all there the same way. Really big piece in terms of the reporting is that we're covering more in terms of the dynamic reporting pieces. It almost looks a lot like SQL reporting, or you get into Power Pivot, where you're getting into tables, where you're doing lookups. You have the capability of us customizing it. And we'll definitely go through this in the demo, but it's dynamic. So if you want to change it, or you want to start, let's say, at this particular resource overview report, and you say, well, I want to change it. I don't want to use necessarily regular hours. I want to use my overtime to see where we actually getting more information. Perhaps maybe it's geographic. Perhaps you want to break it down by different custom fields that you determine. Whatever the case may be, it's dynamic. It gets you the feedback immediately. You don't have to run it and then see that it actually works. You'll see it immediately. And that's a real critical thing. Excuse me. Same thing in terms of our custom reports. If you don't like any of the reports that we got for you right now, go ahead and customize it. Start from scratch. You're able to do that and essentially create the dynamic reporting the way you'd like them. Same thing in terms of dashboard reports. How many people get requests from executives for that all the time? Yeah. They love that stuff. That's like gold. I mean, if you can give them a dashboard that gets that information dynamically, it's not static, they will love you to death. Totally. We also contain the visual reports as well, so if you still like doing the Excel and the Visio, that's been there, I guess, 2007, I think. They're still there. So whatever investments you made in those, they still stick around. The other thing as well is with the Office 365 integration, we're talking about creating the accounts and how it actually integrates. And depending on the account will determine exactly what you can do on Project Professional. So if I just log on locally, let's just say if I'm a domain user, I get very, very basic, very bare bones stuff. If I log in with my Office 365 account, I get additional features. The other thing that's interesting too is under a Microsoft account, anybody here using Windows 8? Some? Right, where you can log in with a Microsoft account. In case mine, I've also made Facebook and Twitter connection pieces, and it recognizes that. It says, oh, you actually have these particular additional services. You have additional ones. I think LinkedIn is another one, YouTube, Flickr, and I can't remember the other one. Instagram is not one of them. So, and as well as our project server account. So depending on how we actually configure this, will determine what it is that you can see and what you can do. By the way, if you have questions as we go along, go ahead. We're all friends here. Same thing then goes with new project templates. They made a significant investment getting new templates involved. How many have been looking and say, God, there's nothing new, there's nothing exciting, it's the same old construction templates. They've added a whole whackload. Okay, what you'll actually see too is you'll see a lot more people uploading their templates now into the store. Okay. And it'll be most probably be free. Some may not. They may ask for, $10 for a template. And if it's in your industry, that might be a good thing. Instead of reinventing the wheel. Same thing goes with getting new templates from Excel, from your SharePoint. If you already have enterprise templates, like if you've made those investments already in 2010 or 2007. You bring them along. But the biggest one you're going to see is Office Online. Okay? But the deal with that is you have to have internet connection. Kind of makes sense. Now, TaskPath is an interesting new feature. Basically, in terms of highlighting a path of predecessors, and as well as successors. And in between that, we have driving or driven. So what I could do, anywhere in my plan, I'll pick a task, and I can actually toggle it. It's just a toggle. Show me driving predecessors. So in this case, it's in orange. If I do driven successors, it'll be in purple. And all it does, it gives you a listing of what happened before and what's going to happen afterwards. And you say, well, that's not a big deal. It is a big deal in large projects. I'm talking like 1,000 tasks plus. And especially if you have multiple pathways, it makes a big, big difference. Simple projects, under 200, probably not a big deal, okay? Or if you're doing programs where you're integrating them and putting them in masters, that's also another big one as well. So let's go and have a look-see, shall we? So what I want to do, yes, I know it's all about me. Let's get rid of that. So I just want to show you something here. So I'm just going to open my project. And this is just on my notebook. And just at the beginning, you're going to notice that immediately it doesn't open the blank project anymore. Okay. By default, it'll always pop up and says here, this is the recent projects you've gotten. You can open other projects. You can go in here. These are your templates that are available. Okay. You can always do searches for these templates online. It knows that I'm online. But what I want to do is I'm going to switch my account here. And I'm going to add a new one in here. Now in mine, my Office 365 with Project Online is at my PMO Logistics. Okay, so it's going to go and say, it says, hey, we need a little bit more help. Is it a Microsoft account? Or is it an organizational, more specifically Office 365? Okay, so in my case, it's an Office 365. And it'll ask me for my password. I'm sorry? Do I have a typo in my username? Logis. Yes, right there. So, oh, isn't that great? You can't get back. We'll do it all over again. PMOLOGISTICS. Okay. So now it knows, and if I wanted to, it'll actually show me. So right now I'm currently logged in as this account, okay? It also knows that I have a local account, which is where I log in on my domain. I also have another account, which is my Microsoft account. So anytime you want, you're not logged in, but it will always remember the last person you logged in as. So if I were to close this and I open it up again, it'd say, oh, you want to go in as your PMO Logistics account. So it'll remember last time. So in my case, all I'm going to do in here, I can go in and say, well, there's a PMO Logistics piece, and it says, hey, you've got a couple of things here. As soon as I wake it up. Because right now what it's doing is it's making a connection to the SharePoint site that also has PWA. And it doesn't look like it. So what I'm going to do, let's do this. I'm going to do this, that. I'll just take a couple of old files here and just show you. Now, one of the first things I always get people is say, God, Rolly, that thing looks ugly. There's no contrast. It's all white. It hurts my eyes. Anybody get that? Right? Yes. For those of you that do not know, you can repair this by just going into the options and changing your theme to either a light gray or a dark gray. If you do a light gray, it's a little bit lighter. And when you click on here, it's still green. If you go back and do a dark gray, much more darker, much more light, but it changes it to dark. Let me go back here for a second. All right. So one of the things we need to show you is on the report side of things. So, and again, we have the way we can create manual custom reports, whether it's a chart, a table, comparison. You step it through, you decide it, you're starting from scratch. It's blank, okay? I'm a guy that likes to go through and actually tweak stuff, okay? So in this particular one, it's a resource overview. Now, if I select anything in here, I get a field list that automatically pops up for me. You can change it, right? So like right now, it's set for baseline on a baseline work because I've actually picked it. But if this was an actual project that we have done, and we started doing actuals, we would be able to see that, and we would have an effective comparison between the two. But what I wanted to show you more than anything is that you can go through and decide on what particular fields you want to choose from, okay? This is a lot easier, especially if you have to show directors, executive types. These are the type of reports we have available out of the box. How is it that you would like to see these things changed? Okay, it makes it easier. They get a better buy-in because they're part of the process instead of you just here's the reports that we think that you should use. Get them involved. It makes it a lot easier in terms of selling this. Okay. But what I wanted to show you that it is dynamic. It is however you want to set it up. So you don't like the way this looks, change it. The cool thing about it is it's immediate. You don't have to wait for it. You don't have to run it against anything. The data that you're seeing is live based on the plan that you're on right now. Nice view. Let me get back to my good old Gantt chart view. Any questions as we're going along here? Okay, couple of things wanted to show was the task path. And you'll find that in the format component piece. So if I go in here, all it is telling me what is it that you want to see this. You want to see driving predecessors and driven successors, okay? Now the problem is I need to slide this. Whoops, come back here. That's interesting. Why is my Gantt chart not showing a Gantt? Am I missing something here? Is it too, maybe it's hidden? There we go. Wow. I'm just not used to being in this resolution. Okay. So we have selected this guy here. And basically, we'll go through it, scroll the task. And it's just showing you that at this particular level, you're looking at these are the tasks that you're going to need to worry about. If I select something else, okay, it changes. So it all depends on what it is I'm particularly putting focus in. Okay? And that's all it's doing. It's just giving you another option of viewing information. So that it's like, oh, okay, so here it starts at this point. That's the driven successor. If I select the rough-in plumbing, okay, that's not really a good one. If I finished all these pieces, I know that this is the last one because everything is based on the concrete pouring. Okay. So if I'm a PM, I'm concerned about tasks, especially tasks that are going to be happening in the future. I need to be aware of, especially large projects, which ones are going to be held in focus. So then I can actually go in and see specifically and say, okay, I better keep my eye on this because this particular contractor needs to be sharp, and I need to make sure that they are on time because they're the ones that is going to be driving this. Any questions? Again, it's just a different way of looking at information, you know. And if you don't like it, if you don't want it anymore, just take them off, right? It's almost very similar to like show me critical tasks, right? Everything that's in red is something that's in a is part of your critical Gantt. What else can I show you? Oh, one of the things, since I am on the internet, and if you wanted to, yes, we do have a Project Server 2013 installation for you. So it gives you the information. It says, hey, you got a 4-star, only 2 votes. When do you want it to start? Okay. Not that you don't have to. I mean, you can always change it in the project information, but you say, yeah, sure. And it already has it already predefined. Okay. There were additional pieces that were created in here. I just want to show you, as well as the copying of the timeline. I know that's something executives really like. Not so much in the email or the full size, but for presentation, because what it is that it actually gives you an Office diagram format. So if I go in and I'll do this, and I'll say, I'll just say File New, do a blank template, just real quickly here, because I want to get through all of it. What part of blank did you not get? Okay. All right, so like this guy here, we can get rid of that. And what you can do is you can change it. Notice that I'm dragging it. I can actually make it into additional pieces. So if I wanted to, let's say the background on that, I wanted to change the shape of it so that the fill was solid color, but I wanted it to pop out more. You know, you have better opportunities if you do full page or email. Then it's an image, and then you can't really manipulate it as well as you wanted to. So let's say, oh, I didn't really need that. You can get rid of it. You can make changes over to however you want. So that next time you say, oh, okay, you can drag that in. You can decide if, say, well, I don't want to include this. Executives are a funny bunch, especially when you show them that, you know, that I want to be able to do certain things. Then they just expect it. I guess they should. You know. Anything along those lines to make life easier. So let's get into Project Server 2013, because we got a lot of stuff to cover. So a couple of things I'm going to cover off. How many are excited about the SharePoint permission mode? How many have been waiting for so long for SharePoint permission mode? Yeah, you're going, well, I don't know yet. So we will go through this. This is something that SharePoint administrators have been asking for years and years and years. It's like, why, if this is SharePoint, why can't I just assign users to it, right? Okay, now they can, okay? So the admins will be happy, but there's a caveat, okay, because there's a couple of gotchas. So we'll cover that off. What happens, how do I add these new users, these new SharePoint users? We'll talk about a new scheduling engine, okay, especially if you want to do project online or you're doing a PWA as a project manager. We've also gone through and said, you know what, that 4 database thing, we're going to go back to 1 database. So everything that you did is changed, okay? There is also a new SharePoint service that is very critical. How many got Exchange integration to work? Kinda. You're brave. I've only had one company that was able to do it. It was quite painful, okay? They've made away with that altogether. They just said, no, that's just not working. But again, there are caveats, and we'll talk about those. And as well as migration. There are some new rules, and as well as some discontinued features. So let's get to it. So now, Project Server, you got two modes. You got Standard Classic, which is Project Server permissions, okay? And you got SharePoint, okay? Pretty much everything that we have done, if you're going to be upgrading, we're going to be doing, it'll stay in Project Server mode. By default, okay, little asterisk there, by default, when you create a brand new site for the very first time in PWA, it will be in SharePoint mode. So when you go to your PWA settings, you're going, where are the users? They're not there anymore. And we'll show you where you find them. Now, just a little bit of a headway of the comparison pieces. There's some good things, you know, unified security, permission inheritance, Active Directory. We have that too, by the way. And there's obviously some combination. But the things you do lose by picking SharePoint is there's no user delegation anymore. Okay? You lose the ability to secure the work resources. You can't impersonate anymore, you know, where you click on the name and you can log in as somebody else. That goes away, okay? If you do any security filtering with the RBS, you're not going to have it with SharePoint. It doesn't carry over. And last but not least, I know a lot of companies do this a lot, custom security categories. None in SharePoint, okay? They go away. And you say, well, why is that the case? Well, I think SharePoint permission mode is probably a good starting point for companies that are starting project management. They just want to get up and running and just get a feel for it. And when it gets to a certain point, and it might, they may need to switch over, okay? Hopefully it's a lot sooner than later. And the reason for that is when you change your permissions, they're destructive. So whatever you've done in SharePoint, whatever you did in Project Server, they're gone. Okay? So you definitely want to make sure that you pick the right one at the beginning. Yes, sir? It doesn't matter. Whichever you have here, if you decide that you're going to switch over from SharePoint and you did a whole bunch of work there, whatever's in there, gone. For users, okay? And same thing over on this side. Switching from SharePoint into Project Server is not a big deal, but going the other way is a huge deal, okay? Especially if you've already implemented categories, all those things. It may not be a good day for you. Do a backup. Okay? You know, because it's really easy, and I'm going to show you how easy it is. On Project Online, they have a web app setting for us in the GUI. Nice. For us, on-premises, you got to do SharePoint. You got to do SharePoint PowerShell, commandlet. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's not going to be too terribly difficult to muster up. Now, this was a cute one. How do I know which mode I'm in? Okay, if you see the security with the users, the groups, all that stuff, you're in SharePoint mode, Project Server mode. If you don't see it, you're in SharePoint mode. That's the quickest, easiest way. You can still do, like if you went back, you know, change the set to a get, it'll just give it to you, information-wise. So It just depends on which way you want to go about it. So the question is, okay, if I'm in SharePoint permission mode, my users, where do I add them? Because, well, little button of share. That's all it is. Okay? By default, it will give you a pop-up, and it'll ask you, you want to get more options, show the options, you'll see all your groups. Now, I wish they would have started, project web app dash something administrator, something so that they're listed together, but it's not. So be very careful what you pick. Okay? And that is entirely at the site level. So anywhere this share is located, it's also one of the tiles on the home page. Doesn't matter. That's pretty much where you add them. Questions? They've got a new scheduling engine, and this is really great for people, especially PMs that want to do stuff on Project Web App, web interface. No more do they have to do the recalc. It does it automatically. Okay? So when you're in standard or professional, when you're making a connection to the server, you make changes, it just does it, right? Now they've integrated and put in their own service. So that's part of the Windows Server services. So now there's 3. There's the calculation service, the events service, and the queue. And that's everything but for SharePoint. So that's nice. That was always the thing that people, PMs, oh, thing's not working. Did you recalculate? So yeah. We no longer have 4 databases, right? Got 1. But we got to do some backward compatibility, right? Because you did some investments in reporting, right? And you say, well, how am I going to get access to that? Well, they do prefixes in the tables. So anything that deals with draft, previously in a draft database, is now in a draft table. Published is in pub, archive in ver. No prefix for reporting, just to make it easier for you. Okay, so it's just a matter of pointing now to the new database. You don't have to recompile your reporting specifically for a table, because that's a bit annoying. Pretty much the same thing, instead of the databases, you're going to the particular tables. So no accessing, drafts, the pub, the ver tables. Nothing forces you, it says you can't do it. They just won't support you if they know it. Now, work management service, this is a SharePoint service that basically aggregates all tasks from SharePoint, Exchange, Project Server, everything, and it aggregates it into one location. If you have enterprise SharePoint involved, and you have my sites for your users, they will get all their information in there. Okay? At the same time, in their Outlook 2013, they will be able to get aggregate task list there for all of it. So if you create task lists in SharePoint, and as well as in Project Server, and even in Exchange, it's all aggregated into one location for them. Question?
Yeah, if you have Outlook 2010 and SharePoint 2013, can you get it in Outlook also?
The question is if you have Exchange 2010 and SharePoint 2013, no, all 2013. That's the caveat. I don't know about Outlook. I think it'll work in 2010. As long as you're connecting to an Exchange mailbox, it's 2013. That's how it's the deal. So much money to spend. Question?
If you have project start in a different form, is it possible to
So like a on-prem, online type of thing? Two different farms? Are they integrated through Active Directory? Through a federation? Then I would say yes. I can find you. If I can get you the servers in an Active Directory federated service environment, then I should be able to synchronize all of it. I don't think it'll be out of the box, but there'll be some work involved, but yeah. Somebody else had a hand up? No? Yeah, go again.
Is that the same with the online stuff? So
Yeah. The exchange, because you can have it in a hybrid environment, but the question is is there such an environment for SharePoint? And the answer to that is no. No, unless you incorporated ADFS. That's the only way that it'd be able to see that. So, but that would be, and that was one of my things. I said, we need to do this in a hybrid environment because I would like to keep all my secure projects, R&D stuff under the house. My departmental projects and little things like that I don't care about. I put it in the cloud. But I don't have that nice mixture. But that would be cool. Okay, on the migration stuff. Database attach upgrades are the only way that you can migrate your stuff, okay? And they say very, so like in-place upgrade like we did in 2010, not supported. So what it means is you got to go through, create your farm, go through, do the databases, right, in 2010, bring them across, then upgrade it with a whole bunch of PowerShell commandlets that's going to basically merge your 4 databases into one, okay? You definitely want to test this in an environment before going live, by the way. And then upgrade finally the project web app site. Okay, it looks easy, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So, no in-place upgrades. Okay, we do see. I have customers that are still on 2003. Okay, they still have the virtual migration environment. Okay, so you're going to need to upgrade it. Go from 2003 to 2007. Then go to 27, go do an upgrade. It's a lot of work. You see a lot of governments still doing this way. But at least they're moving, so I'm happy about that. Any questions? Yes?
The limitation on the database, what's the recommended size?
Oh, the size? You can you can throw anything at it. I mean, we've seen some really big databases. And I know that Microsoft has shared that with us, and he says, as long as your hardware can take it, they can take it. And I'm like, so that's impressive. They've made a lot of big strides, especially if you doing the SQL Server 2012 with the additional component pieces that they've made better pieces on. Throw it in with 2013 SharePoint, how it handles large database component pieces. It should not have a problem whatsoever. Well, yeah, I mean, it all depends too. If it's on-prem in terms of the backup, in regards to backup solutions, whether you're dealing with multiple redundancies, whether it's geo database locations is another option. Tape virtualization. I know some companies they just do total virtualized environment so that if they have to bring it back up, they'll do it from raw metal. Just fire it up, load it up, and they're back within half hour. But that's because you guys have control over it. Some discontinued features. There's no backward compatibility mode. Okay, that's gone. So there's no. I dropped my mic. There's no BCM, so that has gone out. And as well as the manual sync with Exchange. So we don't do that anymore. We'll use the SharePoint work management services. Okay. Now, decided to say, how far back can we go? So where it gets a little interesting was in 2010, BCM mode as compared to a full mode, and getting the different connectivity pieces. So you were able to flip between, right here, between 2007 and 2010 Pro, you could switch and go around. Here, it's strictly 2013. So if you got 2010 Pro, it's not going to connect to a 2013 project server, and vice versa. Okay? Now, I don't know if it's technical reasons behind that or what, but I don't write the code. I just teach and talk about the code. All right, let me do this very quickly. So, okay, let me get to pick my virtualizer. So here I am on a virtual machine, PWA. And notice here I have no impersonation, so I am in which mode? Yeah, I'm in SharePoint mode, right? There's no user component piece in here. But I can just show you very quickly how to share people in here. Let me just move this up so everybody can see. And if I show my options, and again, bring them back up, I could, who's the guy there? I'll say Rod. Okay, so it automatically knows because I'm in the full interface that says, hey, listen, you're in Active Directory, all these users are located, bang. Who's another one? I think I'm one in there. Okay, so very, very quickly. Then at the same time, you can determine, are they a team lead? Are they a resource manager? Okay, it encapsulates all the groups, okay, that's set up for PWA. So if your SharePoint administrator has created new groups, it's going to be part of it, okay, including in the permissions. These are already defaulted. They're very similar to what we have now in project permissions mode, okay, or project server permissions mode, okay. So pretty straightforward. You can make them leads, okay. And it just shed, here you go. Now, let's see here. I believe, here we go. I knew I was ready. So I've got my administrator. Here's SharePoint Management Shell. I'm going to flip it over into project server mode. So this guy right there. And this takes a little bit of time, maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Okay. And if you want, you can always just really quickly change the S to a G, and it tells you immediately what it is. So, and if I do an F5 here, there's my security pieces. So they're all listed in here. It has the farm account, and as well as me as the administrator. Excuse me. Pretty much the same just here. The other thing here, notice that there's a lot less information here, and they give the edit links piece, okay? And it gives you, you know, if you want to have everything the way it was before, you go ahead, click them all. You know, same thing with your portfolio stuff and as well as the server settings. And I'll save it and close it. So they're pretty much all back the way it was. Same thing, security trimming. So if you don't have permission to the object, you don't get it. Okay. Any questions so far, guys?
Has anything changed from the portfolio management side?
No, nothing has been changed. I mean, it's the same algorithm and the same configuration pieces and everything else that's been there. How many of you get a lot of requests for the portfolio stuff before the project server stuff? Yeah. Most executives, they said, well, we need the portfolio stuff right away. And I'm like, and it's going to be amazing because it'll show that you can do every project you can because every resource has got no work. Isn't that amazing? And they'll say, well, how come it's not going to work? Well, try to educate your executive saying, I need to actually put in resources. I need to put in their schedules. I need to do a lot of things before we can even talk about this. And even then, there's a lot more stuff. Typically, I tell them between six months to a year. Don't even look at portfolio, okay? Because you're just not going to have the data. They're not going to like hearing that. I can write a note for you if you want me to. I can do that just for you because I know that they're going to say, oh, yeah, sure. It's like, there's no point because it's like you're getting information that's not valid. It's not true. So, and people are funny that way. And it's like, come on. Now, one of the things I did want to show you, let me get out of my demo machine here for a second. And I want to get to my website. Because in here, in my projects piece, just let me show you very briefly. If I go to, hang on a second here, the SharePoint component piece. Okay. And it's just coming up. So this is my my demo. So I've got this, and by the way, yeah, and this is something that kind of annoyed me, is that it included the sites sub-piece underneath instead of just doing PWA like it normally does in online. I'm one of those weird guys, you know, like, don't change it on me. Why are you doing that? So one of the things here, let me just move this over. This is where you change the security mode, okay? They actually gave us a web access UI to be able to go in and make the changes necessary. So you want to switch it over, go ahead, click on OK, and then you're done. Now, for the purpose of the demonstration, I'm not going to do that because I have no idea how long it's going to take. And I have a sneaking suspicion it'll take longer than I would like to. So one you do here, so I'm in as administrator for my site, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on the projects. Okay. And it just tells me, you know, here's who me, so it knows that, hey, there's no impersonation. And the really neat thing about this, as soon as I wake it up here, okay, I created this project. It's not a big project, but if I go ahead and click on it, I did this on my phone, okay? I got let me see here, pull it out. I have a Lumia 920. Basically, it's just a web interface. And just to show you, as it populates, so here's my piece. And notice that you'll see here, you'll need to click on the actual tab itself to invoke the full ribbon. And the fact that it's grayed out, it's still working, so we're just gonna wait. Let me get out of this thing just briefly. Let's try that one more time. It doesn't want to show it for some reason. Let me. No, I don't want to edit the page, but I do want to edit in browser. I'm wondering if it's because it's a side thing. Let me do this real quickly. Is it? Oh, there we go. Okay. So just to show, we can do, a task. Task 2. You can mark it as a 1D. And you'll say the start date. Let's do that for start on May 1. And I apologize. Let me just. And you can select these two, and you can link them. So they're pretty much in line with everything that you've got listed for. You can scroll to task, and it shows up. And notice that it's already auto-calculated it. Okay, we didn't have to do a refresh or a save or do anything like that. So we know that that's actually happening. So if I go ahead and save this, okay, and it gives the same piece here, so save successfully, okay, and then we can close it, and I'm going to say check it in. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a refresh on my phone because it should know that I'm logged in. There it is. And I'm just going to get this under here, see if it's already populated. No, unfortunately, my Wi-Fi is not working very well here. It's got to be it. No, it's just, yeah, it's on my phone. And that's going to be a problem. So it's going to take longer than that. So, but essentially, it's just a matter of holding a browser. I mean, whether you do a tablet, whether you want to do it on an iPad, or whatever you want, it doesn't matter because there's no additional code. Like it'll run on Firefox, Chrome, Opera, Internet Explorer, obviously, and Am I missing anybody? Yes. Yes. They made it as part of the deal that they want to cover everything, so they make it all web browser, everything in that you can manage this. Okay, that's the nice thing about it, is that you can be able to do anything at any given point in time. You know, so that's a nice thing to have for that. Any questions, guys, on the project server component piece? The big thing to note, and I think what I'll do is I'll just switch back here. On the project, you ever notice that there was mostly all benefits and all stuff? You can't find anything that's con? Well, I'll tell you what it is. Pro, it's easy. The biggest thing is that it's probably the easiest thing to set up. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to worry about your backups. They're taken care of for you. Guaranteed uptimes. They will actually give you money if you're not able to get. And I have actually received money when the exchange was down for a day. Not a lot of money, but because we only had, I think, like 2 licenses. But if you have 2,000 licenses, that's a bit of coin. Okay? The only real features that are different is that you get click to run and project on demand. Those are the only differences between on-premise and online. Everything else is exactly the same. Okay? Everything is exactly the same. The click to run, it doesn't matter. I've got Project Pro and I just say, okay, click it on here. I'm going to get Project installed on my notebook. Okay? If I'm on the run or if I'm on somewhere to work, I get Project on demand. Bang, just install it. It's incredibly fast, okay? But the bad thing is you need internet connection, okay? So it is available. They use AppV as the method for putting it onto your machine, so it's very quick, okay? And they said, well, is there anything I got to do? He said, no, just pay your license every month. Because if you don't pay, it's not going to work. They're so mean. Okay, but cons, you don't get access to the data except using OData. That's the only way you're going to get your data. Okay? You don't have access to your backups. Okay? So if you have a problem not having the bits in your hands, this is not a solution for you, okay? You could have a problem with governance. Depending on what industries you're in, you may not be able to use it, okay? Check this out, because especially with all of Office 365, where the data resides, it's global, okay? And that's how it's going to be. Is that going to be a problem with your government? Okay? Some, they say, absolutely not. We will never be able to do this, okay? You don't get central admin as well, okay? None for you. You're a tenant. That means that we have a whole mess of people. I mean, the list is just huge of how many tenants that there is supplied in a central admin for Project Online. It's huge. But you're just one out of hundreds. Okay? And probably the biggest thing is you need internet. Okay? If you deal with emergency services, military, some government agencies, they just cannot do it. It's just a non-starter for them. It has to be on premise. So just keep that in mind. You know, it's a great way for small businesses to get involved. Licenses are not cheap. Okay, Project Online is $60, $65 a pop, okay, times 12 out of the year. It was like, I was very happy to get my demo license from them. I said, I can't afford that. That's crazy. Project Pro was another thing. If you go to the Project Pro webpage, they want to sell it to you immediately. And they'll tell you how much it's going to cost you. $1,200 Canadian for Pro. I remembered it being $800 and people gasped back then. So I'm like, wow. Okay. We already showed you the change permission mode already in that piece, right? So just a matter of going through, picking it up, and then you're good to go. Haven't tested this, how long it takes, but I would have a feeling that it's not going to be something that's going to be as quick as it is on-prem. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And right now I have nothing for you because we've gone through them all. Got a whole mess of web resources for you. I will make these slides, we will make these slides available so that you guys can have access to them. And especially with the content here, chances are I'll probably put it on my blog as well. Does anybody have any questions? Well, thank you very much, you guys. I really, really appreciate it.